Welcome to the Habits of the Few, where we discuss habits, rituals, and mindset tactics that you can use to reach your version of success. And now, here's your host, Mo Nabolsi.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Mo Nabolsi. I am your host of Habits of the Few, the show where we talk about reverse engineering the psychology of achievement. Today's guest is someone I've looked up to for many, many years. His name is Mark Bell. He's a professional power lifter. He's the owner of Super Training Gym, a former professional wrestler. And this guy has squatted over 1,000 pounds, bench pressed over 800 pounds, and deadlifted over 760 pounds. And, he is just someone that I have looked up to for a very long time. It was a complete honor to be able to speak to him today. And, he surprised me. He surprised me in the most positive way ever. This guy is so insightful, so humble, so thought-provoking to just really helping you think differently and approach life from a different stance. And I'm just so grateful that he took the time to be able to spend an hour with me and just hopping on this podcast. So, guys, listen, sit back, relax. Get your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, your little cheesecake, protein shake, creatine, whatever it is that you do, and enjoy the show. Thank you.
That was hard for me. It used to be like upsetting that I wasn't, as a kid, you just want to like blend in. You just don't, and so, being in these special classes and having my friends ask me about why I'm in these classes, and I got called names and stuff like that too. It obviously didn't make me feel very good. But later on in life, that slow pace and that slow tempo ended up being, and still to this day, is my greatest strength, because I'm not afraid to really take my time with stuff. As a power lifter, to be able to work up to some of those weights I mentioned lifting, it takes forever. It takes so long to do a workout where your working sets and squats is like 800 or 900 pounds. I mean, imagine like for someone listening that squats, let's say 275. Well, they got to squat the bar. They got to squat 95 pounds, 135, 185, and so on. And even that takes some time. So just imagine, amplifying that times 8. And that's like how long it would take even just to get to the main working sets, never mind the rest of the workout. So powerlifting takes an incredible amount of time, even within a given workout. And powerlifting, you need a lot of rest and recovery from your set. So let's say I was going to do a set of 3. Well, that set of 3 is going to take so much out of me. I have no choice but to rest for 5 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes in between every single set. And in addition to that, you have to really focus in on recovering. You can only do a squat or a bench or a deadlift if you're going real heavy about 1 time per week. So you need like 6 or 7 days to recover from it. On top of all that, it takes a really long time to acquire strength. How long does it take to get strong? It takes a minimum of 10 years. That's a long ass time, 10 years. It takes 5 years to be like kind of prolific and to be good at it and stuff like that. Right. But you want that next level of strength, and you want to start coming, to get a lot of recognition for it and to maybe break records and things like that. Now we're talking about, you probably had about a decade's worth of work. Who is willing to put in a decade's worth of work to be considered strong, right? Not a lot of people are willing to do that. Now, you can get stronger pretty fast, but I'm talking about being like that kind of that next level. And so because I was slow in school, it was something I was beating myself up as a kid and something I didn't feel great about. Later on, it ended up being my greatest strength. And still to this day, it's something that I can lean on, because I don't overreact to anything. I'm never too happy. I'm never too sad. I also don't follow any of our numbers here at Slingshot. I'm not your typical entrepreneur. I don't look at like finances. I don't look at those things because again, those aren't things that really fulfill me. Those aren't things that like put me at peace. If anything, they might be things that might stress me out more so than anything. But my eye is on, like, I want to feel good every day. And in my opinion, the best way for me to feel good is to help other people feel good. So I try to invest as much time and as much energy as I possibly can into helping out other people with their nutrition, with their training. Everything I do is for free. I mentioned the gym's free. I do seminars for free. I communicate, I DM people back and forth. You and I were DMing. I try to DM as many people as I can get to. And I'm just obsessed with trying to give people, because once we start to attach finances to it, it starts to maybe block out a group of people. And I don't want to block anybody out. I want people to know how to get themselves healthy. So I feel like, where I'm at now, I started out in powerlifting. I started when I was like 12. I ended up actually doing a bodybuilding show about a year ago. And where I've kind of progressed to, though, is I feel like I'm in this spot right now. I feel as if I was put on this earth to make the world a better place to lift. And if I'm going to do that, I need to make sure that I touch people in a way that allows people to have enough knowledge to be able to be as healthy as they need to be. And so right now, I feel like that's kind of a calling for me, is to speak to people quite a bit about like elementary nutrition. And what I mean by that is something that is like, sounds so obvious when I spit it out that you're like, that makes a ton of sense to do. And I want to give people things that they can actually go and do. I can say, boom, one thing, and they go and do it. I had a guy just the other day. He said, you gave me some advice a while back. You told me just to eat twice a day, and I lost 100 pounds. Guy lost 100 pounds from one quick thing of advice. Didn't say anything about his macros or his micros or anything like that. Said eat twice a day, and boom, he was on his way. And so I would love to be able to provide people with information that allows them to really, truly make powerful changes.
You do that though. Just so everybody knows, you were mentioning like being humble, and mentioning your accolades, this, that, or that may not seem like humility, but dude, you're humble enough to get on a podcast with a guy you've never met, communicated with me. You don't know me. Like, you just don't, you were able to take the time to sit here and do this. Not to mention, like, all the content that you give on YouTube and whatnot. Like, I'm not a professional by any means. I'm addicted to lifting weights. I love to get as strong as I possibly can. I train at 4:30 in the morning. It anchors my day. It sets me up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm obsessed with it. And like, I sent you a DM the other day. I said, hey, I was going through your 30-day free bench training, because that video just popped up about setting your lats up and doing the slingshot. Dude, my lats were so contracted, I started to cramp. Yeah, it was insane. And then I was meant to.
You put the slingshot on, and you were just activating your lats, just pulling your elbows back.
Right. And then I just started practicing that with the bench, just 135 on the bar. And I'm like, man, that's insane. You're just getting it's almost like a slingshot. I mean, it's exactly that. It's like you're winding up to explode. I was like, I've been benching wrong my whole life. It's insane. Seriously, that was like my awareness. I was like freaking out. I was like, man.
Yeah, when I've gone to trade shows before, obviously when we're at a trade show, we're demonstrating products, and we're trying to make a sale, right? But like, people would come in and they'd be like, man, something hurts in my shoulder and my bicep when I bench press or something. And I'd say, okay, let me show you how to bench press. And they're like diving their hands into like a slingshot. I'm like, I'm going to show you how to bench press without the slingshot on first, because I need you to know how to do this correctly. And so I would go over some of the basic skills and some of the basic setup of a bench press. And I'd say, okay, now we can put the slingshot on. But a lot of times when I showed them how to bench press correctly, and I showed them how to pull the weight into themselves, and I showed them how to kind of flex their biceps almost as you're bringing the weights down, and you're under good control, and the elbows are in close to your body, your chest is arched up. A lot of times they would be like, wow, like my shoulder hardly hurts at all, now that you showed me how to bench. I'm like, yeah, wait till we put the slingshot on. It's going to show you how to bench press even with better form. Mm-hmm. It's also going to allow you to handle more weight, and you're not going to have any pain at all. And they throw it on. They're like, how do I buy it? What do I got to, how much does this thing cost? And so people would be extremely excited, but it's been a philosophy of mine. And it's great to have guys like Gary Vee out there now, kind of backing up some of this information. But I've always been a person to like give. I want to keep giving. And if somebody wants to purchase something from me after that, then that's cool. You know, that's great. Yep. But I'm not really trying. I am an entrepreneur. Who doesn't love to make money? Like, we all love making money. I want to make more money than I did last month. I want to make more money than I did last year. I want to always see everything, you know, going upward.
Right.
But I want to help people change their lives. And that's something I really do take a lot of satisfaction. I don't get any money, obviously, when I go in my Instagram and I answer some questions on like nutrition. And like right now I've been selling people on like a keto style diet and a carnivore diet, and even just some of the things that I do that I feel have helped me be on a really good path. And I'm not trying to attach any like monetization. I do have a book on a ketogenic style diet, but like, I'm not trying to, you know, court you into this thing where you got to like, you know, buy this program, whatever. I just want to give you the information, because I would love for everyone to be able to arm themselves with enough knowledge to be able to keep themselves healthy, keep themselves strong. And there's a lot of lack of knowledge out there. People are like, man, isn't meat going to like make your cholesterol go through the roof? And aren't you going to have heart disease? And aren't, you know, people are confused. And I'd love to, you know, help people be able to understand it a lot easier.
I started eating, so I always ate meat. I love red meat. I love bison, buffalo, cow. And I started eating more meat. And I will say, I tried the carnivore diet. I love carbohydrates. I feel just maybe like I'm Lebanese. So like I grew up eating rice and breads and like that. But beans in particular are probably my number one source of carbohydrates. Black beans and kidney beans in particular. And I just find that my body just sucks them up, and you know, I don't feel bloated or anything, but I do eat majority of my meals is always a lot of high fat and high protein diet. And then, you know, like vegetables and beans are typically, you know, like the filler.
And I think it's, you know, we're in a weird time, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous and insane. You know, for you to say that you like rice and beans and some of these carbohydrates, it's ridiculous for me to say, no, dude, you can't have those. Like, no, dude, you got to be keto. Like, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're feeling good and that's the feedback that your body's giving you, and also too, like, dude, we're talking about like rice, we're talking about potatoes, we're talking about beans, we're talking about like fruits and vegetables. It's obvious that these things are really good for us. So there's no reason. I hate seeing the fighting, you know, like I'm not going to fight with vegan people, because what I'm hoping is that I hope everyone's making a healthier choice than what they were doing beforehand, you know, and I hope that they have the education or they have the knowledge, at least for whatever diet is that they're trying, to do the best they can with it. Even as far as veganism goes, I don't have a problem with it. I have a lot of friends that do vegan diets, and they end up having good results from it. I think as long as you're making sure you're getting in enough like protein and amino acids and stuff, like I don't have a problem with it. And I'm not going to sit here like, what if you just love animals and you don't want to be part of harming animals? And then I'm fine. Like, why am I going to try to push my beliefs so hard on you? All I want is for people to be able to obtain the bodies that they want. And I see so many people are unable to, and that's people that are not in fitness, and that's people that are in fitness. How many people in fitness do you know? How many people do you see when you go to the gym that, like, obviously, like, getting the body you want can be a twisted thing, because you're always going to want more. You're 12% body fat, you want to be 8 or whatever, right? Like, that's always going to happen. That's not the shit I'm talking about. I'm talking about you see someone go to the gym every day and they're 60 pounds overweight and they don't want to be. They're not happy with that. And it's like, how do we help that person? How do we help that guy? How do we help that girl? Well, maybe turning them onto a vegan diet, maybe that would help. Or maybe they stumble upon a keto diet, or maybe they stumble upon Stan Efferding's vertical diet. Or maybe they just try a bunch of different diets out and they find some kind of happy medium between carnivore, keto, and the vertical diet. So they find something that feels good for them.
Versus what's out there now and what the confusion is. Like, I'll tell you right now, from a hormonal standpoint, I watched the whole thing on that Andrew went through
Sarmageddon.
With Sarmageddon. And so like I love that you guys are putting out so much information. I wish that 20 years ago I could have found you guys, because I found out just 4 years ago that my hormones were all fucked up. I've been on TRT ever since I was 30. And like, I wish steroids were legal. I wish SARMs were legal. I wish you can go to a doctor and get all this information and say, hey, I want to go on a cycle. I want to get this dialed in, blah, blah, blah. And it's still almost, even though it's better now, it's still kind of taboo, right? Where it's just like, oh, you can't. Like, I'm like, dude, I go get my blood work once a month. Like, if I want to boost it up, if I want to get strong, if I want to go on a cycle, I want to be able to do that without having ridicule or, like, I'm like, it's my body and I know what I'm doing and I'm being monitored, this, that, or the other. So I wish there was more information. And so I just appreciate that you guys fucking do this shit. Like, you're really pushing the needle. And it's just awesome, because you have no idea how many kids are so confused. You got 18, 19-year-old kids that are so confused about what to do, what not to do. And, I've got younger siblings, younger brothers and younger cousins, and, they want to do this, they want to do that. And I don't know enough information about it to be able to guide them. And so it's just like, I usually guide them to people that I respect and I admire, and I know that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But it's just something that needs to be more present. And the fact that you guys are bringing this to the world, and you're really pushing the needle on all of these topics that need to be, communicated. It's just, everybody's asking the questions, but nobody's fucking answering them. You know what I mean? So
there's so many people dealing with anxiety and depression, and there's a lot of people just feeling like unfulfilled.
Now, I've tried Mind Bullet, but I've had a contact with a guy for wholesale for this stuff for 2 years, and so I just get boxes of it. So nothing against
Kratom.
Yeah, Kratom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kratom is fantastic. Yeah, Mind Bullet is a product of mine that I started about 6 months ago. You can go to mindbullet.com and check more information on it. But yeah, Kratom is fantastic. It can make you feel good. It can put you in a good mood. Yep. But what else can put you in a good mood is eating proper foods, having proper nutrition, proper sleep, proper training, and having good relationships. Relationships actually is probably at the top of that mountain. Because if you got something shitty going on in a relationship, you got a lot of stress going on in a relationship, it's actually going to be hard to function otherwise. It's actually, a lot of times people go through like a divorce and they can't eat and they can't sleep, right? So relationships is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to health. But there's a lot of things that you can really do for yourself that are amazing. Like taking Kratom would be something you would do to yourself, but like things you can do for yourself is like go for a 10-minute walk. These walks can be fantastic, and people kind of like, what's this? They just think I'm like an old guy, hitting up these walks. But man, I did an hour walk this morning. It felt really good. There's never going to be a time where you go on a 10-minute walk and you're going to regret it. You're going to always feel better after you do it. You'll be shocked at a 10-minute walk, especially if you walk kind of briskly and walk maybe a little bit faster than you really want to. It will feel like you just had a cup of coffee when you come back from that walk. I saw a saying one time, and it said, if you're angry or mad or sad and you're just in like a weird funk, they said, go for a walk. And when you're done, if you're still in that funk, walk more. Walking is really, really therapeutic, and it doesn't require a lot of your body. So in my opinion, it does almost more for your brain than it does for your body. Yes, it will help you burn some calories and stuff, but I think we're always trying to view fitness as like all this shit it's going to do for like your body. Right. And I'm going to have bigger biceps and bigger traps and bigger chest, and I'm going to, look like a bodybuilder or whatever. But really, I think that fitness and strength training and walking and all these things, they do so much for your mind. And that's the kind of stuff that, I get endless amounts of DMs. I'm sure a lot of other influencers on Instagram get them as well. But I get so many people telling me the stuff they lifted through. And we kind of have started a campaign here at Slingshot talking about lift through it. And what I love about that is that now puts it back on everybody else. For a long time here at Slingshot, I didn't know any other way to market than to like just show myself using these products, because I'm a strong athlete, and so I was like, let's do it this way, But now with this campaign, I get to flip it back onto the fans and flip it back onto the people. And I get to give back to people because we're getting so many tremendous stories of people lifting through cancer, people lifting through diabetes, people lifting through divorce, depression, anxiety, all kinds of stuff. And it's just, I have a friend, Jason Khalifa. He wrote a book called The AMRAP Mentality, former CrossFit Games champion, awesome guy, entrepreneur, kicks ass in business. This is how important exercise is to people. And this is how important it is to stay attached to who you really are. Jason has been involved in fitness for a long time. His daughter was diagnosed with leukemia a couple years back. And when she was diagnosed with leukemia, Jason parked his truck at this hospital that he loaded up with a bunch of dumbbells, kettlebells, bands, slingshots, hip circles, all these different things that he knew he could pull out of the truck and use to work out. And he would travel to and from the hospital with his wife in their other vehicle. He would go in the parking garage, take stuff out of his truck, and hit up a 15-minute or 20-minute CrossFit workout, while they were at the hospital. Obviously, like, he's attending to his daughter as well. But in those kind of down times, because they were at the hospital nonstop, he was out there exercising. And if he didn't do that, now you might think, wow, like, what a nutcase, like, that's super selfish. And it's like, no. He's trying to hold everything together because he knows that if he doesn't do this, that he's not going to feel himself and he's not going to be of use to anybody else.
100%.
It's my belief that everyone should be lifting. I used to not be of that belief. I used to be like, oh, it's cool. Like, do whatever exercise, you want. And if you want to, if you want to jog or if you want to mountain bike, do whatever you want. But now I don't believe that anymore. I think that everyone, especially in the United States, with how obese people are and with how unhealthy people are, I really think it's important to lift. And beyond just the health of these metabolic diseases that are all very easily controlled, by the way, diabetes is like a joke. You can control it in the kitchen in 3 months, and you can control it with what you eat and how you train very, very quickly and get a hold of it very quickly. But aside from that, man, training does so much. Like, I have never had a day I've only had a couple days in my life, I should say, where I felt depressed or where I felt, and I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what the fuck is this? Because I've been lifting since I was 12. And so I think sometimes I'm so excited about it, so passionate about it. I think sometimes maybe I come off the wrong way, but all I'm trying to do is get people, if I can get people to feel like just 1/5 of the way that I'm feeling, I think they would feel pretty damn good. And I think they'd end up like you and I, and then end up completely addicted to it.
Mm-hmm. The only times I've ever gotten depressed is when I got really badly injured or really sick and I couldn't work out.
Couldn't train.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I'm not even making that shit up. It's, I don't know.
I got depressed after a bodybuilding show, but that was like, I don't know, it just took everything out of me. And then, like, I did the show, and then it's like, you kind of, and that happened to me in powerlifting a little bit too. Like, you do a powerlifting meet, win, lose, or draw, like, you have these kind of like weird feelings about it afterwards. You're not sure what to do yourself next. You don't know what the next goal is. I mean, if you ever talk to an MMA fighter on here, ask them this question, say, is it harder to win or is it harder to lose? And a lot of them, when they think about it, they would say it's harder to win. And then a lot of them would actually tell you that they maybe had about 2 or 3 days feeling pretty down and pretty depressed after a victory sometimes. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, extreme sports and competition can kind of make your mood move around a lot. But I've kept a lot of great stability through just training.
And so you're still consistent. Are you still training all the time, every day? We have specific days that you're training to allow for recovery.
I always, I try to get some form of exercise in every single day. And so, and I'll count easy stuff as exercise too. Yeah. Like the 10-minute walks, they count for me. So I probably have been doing that for the last maybe about 3 years or so. But yeah, it's a day off of like actually lifting, in the gym. I probably have about 2 of those a week. I just kind of do it as it comes. We train pretty early in the morning. Not every morning is at like 4 a.m., but we do a lot of 4 a.m. workouts or 4:30 workouts. And it just depends, if if I get home from like work at like 5 and I start looking at that clock and I'm like, I'm not going to be in bed until like 9 or 10, then it won't make any sense for me to do an early morning workout. I'm not going to force it just to have a post for Instagram or something like that.
100%.
Because it's a compromise of your health, and so while sometimes people really admire the early morning workouts, like, dude, you're a beast. It's like, I'm still getting 8 hours, or at least striving to get. I'm not very good at sleep. It's something I should be a little bit better at. But if I have 7 or 8 hours of just lying down, then I'm probably going to function pretty damn good the next day. And I'm very rarely, it's very, very rare for me to be tired. Like I feel fucking good all the time. And again, that's why. And a lot of it has to do with the lifestyle. A lot of it has to do with the nutrition. I've been doing a low carb, ketogenic style diet on and off since like the mid 90s.
Wow. And then I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. I've been doing it forever back, when Dan Duchaine wrote about it in a book called Body Opus, the metabolic diet, the anabolic diet. Like I've been following a lot of those things for a really long time. And, it's an interesting thing. Like I think that most people that flirt with diets, I think they will eventually stumble upon a fairly modest amount of carbohydrates in their nutrition at some point. Like, because as we age, eating 5 or 6 times a day, the way a bodybuilder does, and impacting, your kidneys and your liver and your pancreas and just all the organs of your body and your gut lining, like just all day, every day, forever, probably isn't always the greatest strategy, but it can probably be pretty healthy as long as you're not overeating. And really that's like overeating is probably is the most intrusive thing when it comes to nutrition. Like I think people are looking at whether stuff's organic or not, and they're worried about the vegetables being sprayed, and they're worried about like glyphosate and these weird things being on our foods. And they are on our foods. They are in our foods. They're part of our food chain nowadays. And that's kind of the way things go. But the healthier that you are, the healthier that you are. And if you're fit and you're in good shape and you're training and you're not overeating, those things will matter less and less and less. And so whether you have some processed meat or have some processed food here and there, that'll have a lesser impact on you the healthier that you are. But the more body fat that you start to accumulate and the more junk that you eat, that stuff sits on your fat cells and it gets caught up in your fat cells. I'm not going to get all sciencey with this stuff because I don't even know it, but I just know what I know. And I know that, when you're fat, like when people are heavier, they're starting to hold on to a lot of toxins, and they're starting to really negatively impact the hormones of their body. It takes a long time to start to do that. But I mean, you ever look at somebody and you're like, man, how did they acquire so much fat in that spot? Like it kind of defies the human anatomy. And I'm not trying to be mean or not trying to make fun of people, but like, people's hips and their asses and stuff will get so big and so fat that it pushes their arms out to their side, or even starts to push their arms forward. And I see a lot of people walking around and like their elbows are bent, their knees are bent, and their body no longer even functions the way that it's supposed to function. I do think that it's okay for some of us to have a little extra baggage on us, but it's ridiculous. It really is. It's ridiculous. America needs to look itself in the face, and you need to look at yourself every single day and say, like, I represent this fucking country, and I'm sick and tired of our country being made fun of for how fucking fat we are. Like, let's all make a commitment. Let's have some pride. Let's have some pride for the country that you live in, the country that provides all this freedom. There's so many great things to do here, and this is what you're going to do with it every day. You're going to eat like shit and feel like shit and kind of feed into this, some of these negative things that you sometimes hear about Americans. It's like, man, let's knuckle up, man. Let's get a little tougher. Have you been to Australia lately? Because they're coming in a close second. Yeah, I know a lot of other countries, unfortunately, have been pretty impacted by what we have going on here, in the United States. And it's frightening, man. I think that, some simple things, and let me just back up for a second. Some simple things that people can do, so they don't lose control. Number one is start with exercise, because starting outside of the kitchen is going to be easier for you than anything else. Starting inside the kitchen, it's going to take some time. It might take 5 years, might take 6 years.
It's
Yeah, it is tough, man. And it's going to take several months for you to even learn like what to buy and where, and you're going to have to change a lot of habits. A lot of people just eat out all the time, or a lot of people don't do any planning with their eating. And it's, that is a huge no-no. You got to start to plan. So start with some walks. Try to implement 2 or 3 10-minute walks every day. Second thing I would like for people to try to do is just try to be a little bit more mindful. And what I mean by mindful is, you hear this kind of stuff all the time, but start to have a plan for your nutrition. And I don't care what plan it is. It can be whatever plan you want it to be. But just have a plan and start to think, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be there and there and there.
Right.
Okay, what's my food going to look like for that day? Should I prep some meals? Should I hire a meal prep company? Am I going to bring some hard-boiled eggs with me to the office, or is there somewhere I can get a healthy meal? And if you can't get a healthy meal, then you need to prep for it. You think about, for people listening to this that have children, you never send your kids out of the house when they're real young without some sort of plan for food. When they're 7, 8 years old, you're like, here's money for lunch, or here's your actual lunch. You have like an exchange. Oh, you're going to stay at a friend's house afterwards? Why don't you bring a little extra food with you? Or maybe, take a little extra money in case you guys go to the movies or whatever. But as adults, we don't ever think about it. We just leave the house every day. We have this idea in our head that we've been talking to ourselves about for months. Man, my doctor's on me about losing weight, and I should lose weight for like my wife and stuff too. And I should be healthier. And then Monday morning rolls around and just boom, it's all swept underneath the rug again. And you don't think about it anymore, because you're go. You're on the go. You eat a piece of toast for breakfast with a coffee with sugar in it. And then you're just, you're back at it again, and you're on the road, and you didn't prep any food with you, and you're making bad decisions at lunch, and the same bad decisions are happening over and over and over again. And so just be more mindful of it. Just pay attention to, where's this food going to come from? Here's another thing that drives me crazy. I just thought about this the other day. People get into relationships and they gain like 20 pounds. They gain like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second. You're in love with that person? Like, that is the person that you dig the most. Out of everybody you ever met in your life, you dig that person the most.
Yep.
And now you're going to become less attractive because you're with them? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
You should be motivated. You should be like, you know what, man? Like, this is awesome. I found this girl, and she is so awesome, and this is going to be cool. I hope we spend the rest of our lives together. I'm going to get fucking jacked.
Yep.
That should be the kind of conversation that you're having. Rather than like just, I understand, like, you're enjoying good times together.
Right.
Probably having some drinks and things like that. But could your life look similar to that? It sure could, because you could stack up 5 days, 7 days where you eat pretty damn good, and then you still enjoy those meals with your significant other. You still enjoy a couple of drinks, and then boom, you get back on track again. So you could still do all those things. Yeah. But start out with some exercise, and make sure you're just being a little bit more mindful of your food. Get in 8 hours of sleep, get in a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then whatever the fuck you do from there, like, you can start to, research it more yourself and look into it more yourself. You can also try some intermittent fasting. Like, fasting it's not hard. Like, just don't eat. A lot of people need to just spend more time not eating. They spend way too much time eating, and they spend way too much time thinking about, the next place they're going to go to. You're at lunch and you're already talking about like where you're going for dinner. Now, I did say it's important to plan, but these are like not good plans. These are like going from, eating a burrito at lunch to going to McDonald's later for dinner or whatever.
Yeah, right. Oh, I'm having Chipotle. It's going to be fine.
Right.
Right. I did want to ask. So I think intermittent fasting is one of the best things that you could do. I love it. I absolutely love it. I do it on non-training days, and it just works great. My body, I feel like, resets itself. I did want to ask. You've got some products right now on your desk there, some keto products. Do you mind me asking what those are?
Oh yeah, these are from a company called Perfect Keto. I have a keto like nootropic, and there's an electrolyte thing, which is, the electrolytes are huge. Basically, it's just salt, potassium, and things like that.
Yeah,
they're very critical when you're on like a low carb diet. Or we were talking about fasting. Like if you're going to fast, you're going to probably need some salt in your diet to make sure that you're holding on to like correct amount of water. A lot of people will feel like crap when they cut carbohydrates out, or if they try to fast. They're like, man, I was super dizzy in the gym. Normally, it's from lack of electrolytes. But yeah, Perfect Keto. It's a company. I'm friends with them, and they have good products. Like if you're on a ketogenic diet, it's kind of hard to get like a snack. It's hard, and they have protein bars and things like that. They have a keto. What was it? It's a cookie dough. They got a cookie dough flavor one. They got a cinnamon roll. Just it's just snacks. But what I try to teach people too is like even those things, like snacks are shit. Like you really need to adapt. The bodybuilders have it right. Bodybuilders, they just eat their meals. Bodybuilders don't snack.
Yeah.
And I think that if you want to have the body that you deserve, and you want to have you want to start to lose some weight and make some progress, probably one of the better things you can do is, I hate taking stuff away from people, but I think in this case, it's like the right thing to do. You got to ditch snack. It's not a good option for you. And also, when you eat snacks, it's a double negative, because you ate something that you shouldn't have eaten, and you probably, you probably ate something sugary or something just processed. That's what snacks are. They're almost always like processed food. I'm not talking about like eating an apple. I'm talking about
nuts or anything like that.
Yeah, right. I'm talking about like, chowing down on like, a bag of Doritos or something like that.
Yeah.
And also just like sodas and shit like that. Like those snacks, they're going to take up room in your stomach for otherwise healthy food and healthy nutrients. I mean, you could spend the real estate in your stomach on something much better for yourself that's going to help build muscle. And by helping to build muscle, you're going to be ultimately helping your body to burn more calories, burn more body fat over periods of time. Having more muscle mass on you. Sometimes some people are like, well, I don't want to get like, too muscly or too jacked. But most of the time, I mean, it's really, really hard.
Who are those people?
Yeah, I know. How hard it is to gain muscle. Like you're not going to be like, super bulky or whatever, the way people think. I think a lot of women are that way too.
Yeah.
But having more muscle mass on you is going to allow your body to really, burn up these calories every single day, rather than you going out seeking out, how am I going to burn these calories for the day? Your body will automatically do it for you when you have muscle mass on you. So you can think of, building up muscle mass as like forever putting your body on like a treadmill, because now that you acquired, 10 more pounds of muscle over the course of a few years, your metabolic rate has increased. You now have more demand for more food. So if you like food, it makes sense to really try to build up that muscle and have your body work for you.
Now, do you prefer like a specific meal frequency, 2 meals a day versus like 8, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I don't know how much that really matters. And I don't know, like, but what's worked well for me is to have a schedule. And so like I've done a bunch of different ways of eating. I've done a bunch of different styles of eating. And for me, my schedule is normally, I normally have like a bulletproof coffee, which is just coffee with butter and like MCT oil. Now there's nothing really magical about, having a fat cup of coffee, a coffee with a bunch of fat in it. However, that helps prevent me from eating until like 2 or 3 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I'll eat at like 3, and then I eat again at like 7, and then I'm usually done for the day. I don't do that every day. Not every single day looks that way. If I have a day where I'm home a lot more, and not maybe so much in the office, maybe I won't have much of a schedule, because sometimes it's nice to kind of like throw away the book and just not
100%.
adhere to anything in particular. It feels nice, kind of, you know, let your hair down, so to speak. But I do think that it's important for most people to try to follow some type of schedule. You know, as I said, for myself, I predominantly eat twice a day. And there's room in there for me to like move things around. There's room in there for me to try, you know, a third meal or whatever. But I try to eat about twice a day. I try to eat within a certain window. Some days, like if I just want to cut and I want to try to lose weight a little bit more, I might cut out the bulletproof coffee in the morning, because it just has extra calories. I really don't need them, but like I said, it does help me to kind of get to that meal that's at like 3 o'clock. It helps keep the hunger away, helps keep some of the cravings away. So if I want to like just change things up a little bit, I might ditch that. But I think that something that everyone should get on board with is this idea right here, is that, or two principles. And I was talking about bodybuilders. Bodybuilders have it right because they don't care if it's breakfast and they don't care if it's dinner. Like they're just going to eat whatever they're supposed to eat. A lot of bodybuilders, they'll wake up in the morning and they'll eat like oatmeal and stuff like that. But a lot of bodybuilders also, they'll eat like tilapia and rice, and it'll be like 8 a.m. They don't care, because breakfast is like a made up thing. I mean, you're breaking your fast, and that can be done at any time, but it can also be done with any food. Think about how asinine it is. That doesn't make any sense. Donuts, pancakes, muffins for breakfast. Like, why?
I know.
Can't they fucking be eaten at any time, right?
I like meat and eggs in the breakfast.
yeah, right. Steak. Meat and eggs. And I think most people, like a lot of people would be turned off if you said, hey, like, you know, here's some chicken breast for breakfast. They'd be like, huh? Like their mind is not ready for it. But like your body wouldn't be like, oh, we got to reject this because it's not pancakes and it's not, you know, or if you ate pancakes at 8 p.m., your body wouldn't be like, oh my God, we got to shit all this out because what the fuck are you doing to us eating pancakes this late at night? So only for the morning, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that adopting that idea of like all your food options are open to you at all times, pretty much. And then also, you know, bodybuilders, they eat on a schedule. They sometimes literally will eat on their clock. And I think it would be a good idea for people to schedule their meals, whether you have 4 meals a day or 6 meals a day or 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day. You should have an idea of when you're going to eat and what are you going to eat. A lot of people, I think, are starting to learn quite a bit about what they should eat. But people are very, very uneducated about how to eat. They're confused on like, so that because they don't know how to eat, because they don't know the how, they don't know how to implement the why. Like they don't understand, you know, how am I going to live my life this way? I've talked to alcoholics before and they said, I could never envision my life going to a party without a drink in my hand. Like I always had that, you know, that I'm like, how am I going to enjoy the rest of my days on this earth without this thing that I love so much? And I think we think about food. I think people are kind of thinking the same thing. Like, man, I don't want to, I would love to lose 30 pounds, but how am I going to, you know, how is that going to actually look for me? How would I execute that? And they don't understand how actually easy it is. There's more personal trainers. There's more gyms. There's more meal prep companies. There's more healthy options in front of us today than there's ever been before. And so it's easy to sit there and cry about it and say, oh my God, there's, you know, so much access to so much junk food. That's actually a true statement. There's probably more access to junk food today than there's ever been. But the flip side is also true, because while America has done a great job at getting us sick and profiting off of that, there's people on the flip side who are like, hey, we can make money on the other side of things because everyone's got diabetes. So let's start a keto company, right?
Yeah.
And so like my friends over at Perfect Keto, they're able to cash in on that. Or companies like Bulletproof Coffee. You're going to see more and more of these keto companies popping up because General Mills and these other giant companies, these other giant conglomerates are conveniently making everybody so sick.
I mean, it's true. But I mean, at the same time, you were saying like there's so many Like you can walk into a grocery store now and they've got meal prep stuff where you can order, or you can pick up directly in the store, like a Whole Foods, New Seasons, Fred Meyer's even. You can walk in and you can have that healthy option, pretty inexpensive too, if you think about it over the grand scheme of things. So we do have that availability. We do have that access. I do want to end with this.
Yeah, you get something that you can microwave in like 3 minutes.
Right, 100%. I just want to ask you one last question, that just kind of we'll point the direction there. What are most of the audience is males, and they're generally between the age of 22 and 27. And obviously they follow the channel because they're trying to strive for something that maybe is out of reach for them right now. Maybe it's something that they weren't born rich. They didn't have availability of access to things. What would be a few things, one or a few things that you would advise them that can help kind of break the stigma of you can't get out of your own circumstance and you can't achieve this if you do this, that, or the other? What's just something that maybe you would think that would be beneficial to them? I know it's such an open-ended question, but I like everybody's response to this question.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think, taking responsibility, and wear it as a fucking backpack, and not only load up your own responsibilities in that backpack, but take on everybody else's too, and fucking go through it. Work your way through it. Work your way to a point where you can just handle a lot, and where you can be a kind of like thermostat for everybody else. You can provide energy to everybody else, and you can be a good, positive, strong impact on other people. When I think about, when I start to think about, what are some things that are facing a lot of people today? And I think that a lot of times it's easy to push things off on other people, or it's easy to push things off on, oh man, it's easy to blame the president, or it's easy to blame social media, or it's easy to blame your school that you're in. It's easy to blame your parents. But does that do you any, is that going to get you further ahead? It might be okay to recognize and say, you know what, I do have shit parents, or I am in a shitty circumstance. That's actually probably a healthy thing to recognize that and to point it out. But you point it out once, and then the next thing you do is do something about it. And so load up these responsibilities, throw them on your back like they're a backpack, and start walking with them and start making some progress. Try to figure out, how are you going to get yourself to a point where you can handle more? Because when you think about the people that we admire the most in this world, they're able to seemingly handle a lot without it bothering them. It kind of appears as if they're spinning all these plates, and none of the plates are crashing and landing on the ground. But really it's just because they built up the volume, they built up the capacity to handle that amount of work. And the more that you do, the more that you can handle. And that's why I share this message with people often is do more, be more. Like if you want to be more than you were yesterday, then all you have to do is do a little bit more. All you have to do is be a son a little bit more, be a father a little bit more, be a mother a little bit more. Lean into your diet a little bit more, lean into your training a little bit more, sneak out an extra rep, sneak out an extra set. It's going to be worth it. You gotta fight for it. It's all sitting right there. And if you think about some of the people in your life that you admire the most, you think about, like I can think about like my grandpa. Like my grandpa would smoke me. My grandpa was like, he was a beast. He built his own home. He built his own car. He, fixed up cars for a living and stuff. And he was just an absolute beast when it came to being an entrepreneur back before anybody was ever talking about some of this stuff. So think about who is that person that you put up on a pedestal, and what traits do they have? What traits do they have that make them somebody that you really admire? And then just go ahead and try to copy some of that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and try to copy that as kind of a blueprint for yourself. But what you'll notice is once you start to put stuff in motion, and once you start to really work, sometimes it can be very difficult to figure out what the hell am I going to work on.
Right.
And that might take a while. But the easiest way to stumble upon that is to find out the shit that you don't like. I mean, what are things that you don't like? What are things you don't like to do? What are characteristics in people that you don't admire? Maybe that would be an easier, maybe you don't have a good role model in your life. My dad has always shared with me that part of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. And so once you start to say, okay, I'm not a fitness professional, and you say, okay, well, I don't want to be a strength coach. You say, okay, well, I don't want to be like a writer. I don't really like to read that much. I really don't like music. Like, you can start to look at these things and be like, I don't like any of that shit. Then what you can start to land on is maybe you land on stuff that you just hate a little bit less than everything else. Yeah. And you start to find some things, and maybe when you start to push into that a little bit, maybe you'll find some enjoyment there. Maybe you'll find some reward. I had John Berardi on our podcast recently. He sold his company for like $160 million or something. It's just a nutrition-based, it's an online nutrition company. It's like, that's ridiculous. Just teaching people how to eat. But that's what he's passionate about. That's what he found out he truly loved. And you know, somebody might think like it's got to be more complicated than that. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. You can find out, you know, what you really love to do. Having something that you love to do is going to be important because you'll be able to put the time into it right now. But I really just strongly recommend for people that are struggling and having a hard time. We talked about scheduling your food, and you'll hear Jordan Peterson talk about this kind of stuff often too. You know, set a schedule for yourself. Like if you feel lost, then stop being lost and start putting yourself in spots that you're familiar with, and set a damn schedule for yourself. Because if you're kind of floating around, maybe you're just out of college, or maybe you're, you know, in between jobs or whatever, you still have responsibility to carry out, and you still have a lot of things you need to do on a daily basis. So make a schedule, like make yourself work, make yourself do some stuff. Figure out who's in your circle. Who do you know? Like, who do you know that has made money in this space? Or, you know, take someone out to eat that's successful. I'm sure you have an uncle or an aunt, or you got somebody that you know is kicking ass in something that you might like. Maybe you like coffee, so maybe you take out the owner of your favorite coffee shop that you go to. Buy the guy a lunch. You know, even if you don't have the money for it, really, because that guy's going to share with you the information that can change the rest of your life. And just, you know, figure out a way to build up some momentum, put one foot in front of the other. And once you start doing that, and once you start to really push this load around, people are going to be congratulating you. People are going to tell you great job. People are going to tell you, hey man, you're doing awesome. And you're going to pick your head up and you go, huh? Because you were so hard at work, and you were working so hard at this one particular thing, you didn't even realize that you crossed the finish line, but everybody else is going to be there to inform you of it.
You didn't even realize that you were going to cross the finish line, but everybody there is ready to inform you. I don't know just how incredibly simple and basic Mark made it for everybody to understand that success is really simple. It's really a combination of habits and discipline, and focusing on the one thing that you want to do. He just said it so eloquently, with so much humility and just plain simple understanding. I just want to thank him again so much for doing the show today. I hope you guys found something of value. I'm sure you have. I found several myself. It was an absolute privilege to have him on the show, and hopefully we can get him back on for round 2, maybe in the next year or so. So thank you again, Mark. Thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in. Please, if you guys have any requests for who you'd like to have on the show, you can reach me at Mona Bolsey Official or at Mona Bolsey on pretty much any platform. Shoot me a DM, tweet, message, whatever the case. You can email me, mo@monabolsey.com, habitsofthefew@gmail.com, and I'll reach out and do my best to get whoever you guys request on the show. Thank you so much. I hope you have an outstanding week. Have a great one.